So after getting some feedback from playtesting, I made a few changes to my level. Most of the changes came from the starting area. I made some few changes here and also towards the ends of the level. But when we get to that part, I'll go more in depth with that. But in terms of the starting level, the basis of the puzzle still stays the same, where the player has to get to the boat in order to get through this part. Um, they have to, obviously they can't just jump onto that cloud block from here, so they'll have to find a way to get up there. I left the lava blocks here again in case they decide to jump and miss these sort of facade blocks here, so that if they do miss, then the lava blocks will bounce them back to the starting area where it's safe. um, I also moved all the blocks one unit to the right because I realized in my gray box I didn't have this sign down here to indicate to the player that they can call the boat back to them if they die during the when they're going to the right with the water with the boat. Sorry. So let's say they grab this boat and then they grab the strawberry and then they die here. Obviously they can't get back to the boat just by jumping on from here, so the sign helps them so that they know that they can call the boat and then continue on. Also, I realized that in my gray box, these spikes here, these three spikes, I changed the color of them to yellow here, and in my gray box I think I left them purple, and I didn't I didn't like that because I wanted to stay consistent with the fact that I wanted all my yellow blocks on this level to indicate to the player that it's like a special block or an obstacle block, something that he can interact with, whereas the purple blocks were just normal blocks. So they grab the checkpoint here, and then this next section, I didn't change anything about it because I generally got good feedback on this. People liked the idea that I used the ice blocks and the laser blocks there to sort of challenge the player, and the moving blocks as well, the moving platforms as well. And then they would get up here to the next checkpoint. I left this part the same, as sort of a for the players, if they catch the ladder to the top right corner, they can come up here and get the strawberry. And then this middle section here of the level, I left it the same as well. I like the idea that the player, if they wanted to get that strawberry up there, they would have to go up to the lava blocks, and again, I made it so that the players can still see when the mine blocks respawn, so that they know when to drop back down, and then they can continue on with progressing. Another checkpoint here, and then the player can also come down here and grab the strawberry. A minor change I made from the gray box was when the player originally got to this point, you can see that cat NPC to the left over there. When they got to this point, the cat NPC would just start chasing the player, and I didn't want that until they got up to this ice block here. So I moved the cat unit just one unit, the cat NPC just one unit to the left, so that the cat will start actually chasing them here. So yeah, this part is pretty much the same. The player still has to deal with the cat NPCs while their laser hazards in the environment. The lava blocks I kept the same just in case the player wasn't paying attention. Then it can sort of bounce them back, and they can potentially bounce them back into the lasers. This section here is the same. I like to challenge. I like to challenge the players where they have to sort of. It's sort of like a timing challenge, and it puts the players under pressure and sort of tests them. This section up here, that strawberry over there to the top left, originally I had it so that the players, there was a chain of mine blocks again, but I decided to change that because from feedback Uh, it felt really annoying to get, just in the sense that the players had to wait for the chain blocks to explode while getting it and also coming back. So I added a new puzzle to this part where the player would have to jump onto the mine blocks, and then there's these ladders that are upside down that the player would have to sort of grab onto to avoid the spikes, and then they can get to the strawberry. I added the mine block rather than a normal block because I wanted to sort of have the player start the puzzle immediately once they land onto the mine block. I didn't want them to sort of just sit there and uh, have time to think about it. I wanted them to think about it first before they attempted it. So they had to sort of think quick on their feet with this. Obviously, if the mine blocks explodes before they can get onto the ladder, then they can just try again. So this next section here, I think I'm gonna run through it to let you see how the blocks are laid out first, and I'll talk about it. So you can see here, you have two cat NPCs that shoot projectiles at you, and you also have 4 sets of ice blocks. So originally in my gray box, I had the 2 ice blocks that are in the middle over here. I had them actually laid out on the left and right side, and then I had a single row of ice blocks in the middle instead. I decided to change that because from playtesting feedback, people were saying how the bottom 2 rows, when I had them to the left and to the right, it felt kind of pointless because they would never sort of use it. They just had to use the top 3 rows. So I just changed the order in it so that the player when they're trying to get through this part, they can either go to the bottom row, which is a little safer, they don't have to deal with the top NPC, or they can clear this whole area if they want to, basically making it so that all the platforms are useful, or more useful in a sense. So let me just get rid of this. Okay. And then this last area, I completely revamped this last area because in my gray box originally, it was the player came up to this last puzzle from the top, and they would sort of just work linearly, and it was a timing based challenge where the players had to face 2 lasers coming from the right and firing to the left. And I changed it because, one, having the player start from the top, they couldn't really see these spike blocks at the bottom, and 2, because there were 2 laser blocks firing from the right to the left, and they were stacked on each other. It was sort of really random and made the player sort of just sit there and wait until both the laser blocks were in sync, and then when they both stopped firing, then the player sort of made that run for it. So it really slowed the pace of the game down, or the level down. So I revamped the level, and I made it so that rather than starting on the top, the player comes in from the bottom so that they can clearly see these spike blocks and then sort of work their way up to that exit to the top right corner. And I wanted to add more of a challenge, I guess, in the sense that there are still 2 lasers, but now they're firing from opposite sides, and the players have to use these mine blocks to sort of time themselves so they can get the jump right and get to the exit. So I run here. This is a safe block here, a cloud block, so that the players can see or be in the center of the whole challenge. And then when the timing is right, then they can jump onto the mine blocks here, grab this piece of cake or pie, and then wait for the lasers again, and then they can sort of Just wait one more. Get to the exit. And that's my level.